One of the videos I wanted to make for a while was taking a little bit of a closer look at all the FTC news about the Xbox, Microsoft, Activision deal and how the FTC and DOJ, etc., are going to get involved. Now, this is a really complicated topic, so I'm actually going to recommend that you go check out Hoeg Law's videos first if you want a really deep dive. I'm actually going to be sourcing him here because some of his points were really interesting. And really today, I just want to take a really quick look at it because I haven't had time to do a deep dive, and it's just there's so much info here about what could happen, what might happen, whether or not it'll go through, and I figured I'd just talk about my 2 cents on just a little bit that I've read. Let's get into it. Thank you so much for watching. If you like my videos, please consider hitting that subscribe button, hitting that bell to know when they go live. Trying to get to 100,000 subscribers, and we're really close to 80, so we're almost there. Thank you so much for watching. So, real quick, there's been this question ever since the FTC got mentioned during the Xbox Activision merger, and one of the questions were about, well, why is the FTC getting involved? You know, like it means the deal may be in jeopardy. And that actually, it seems to be standard operating practice. And my source for that is, you know, Hoeg Law sort of went through some of the things. And if you go to actually the FTC official website, they outline how these things typically work. So after the companies report a proposed deal, the agencies will do a preliminary review to determine whether it raises any antitrust concerns that warrant closer examination. Because the FTC and Department of Justice share jurisdiction over merger review, transactions requiring further review are assigned to one agency on a case-by-case basis, depending on which agency has more expertise with the industry involved. So I've seen a lot of people, subscribe. I've seen a lot of people sort of talking about this, the FTC's involvement. And Hoeg also pointed out that he's been seeing this a lot also, when that's just standard operating procedure. That doesn't seem to be that out of the ordinary. So what's more interesting is the FTC's current stance on like being really hard on big tech. So if we look at this article from, this was published on January 19th, and it's the FTC chair, Lena Khan, saying the agency won't back down in the face of intimidation from big tech. And you've probably seen a lot of headlines like this one where they're just going to be taking a lot closer look at these major deals. For example, like the Xbox Activision deal, for example. She talks about cracking down and let me just find one of the quotes actually. We're really showing these companies, but also showing the country that enforcers are not going to back down because of the companies flexing some muscle or kind of trying to intimidate us, she told CNBC's Andrew Ross. I think those are the types of lessons we're trying to learn looking back over the last decade. I don't think Xbox is trying to flex their muscle against the FTC, though, so I don't think that particular verbiage applies to them as far as I know. Maybe I'm mistaken. But I do think it is important to note that the FTC is cracking down, so they will be taking a look at this deal a lot more closely. And there has been recently an NVIDIA deal where they actually didn't let it go through. So there is a possibility that the whole merger falls apart. Now, I have notes here, so let me just read what else I wanted to talk about. Hoeg Law, just really good videos. Make sure you check out his videos. FTC are always involved with these types of deals. There have been a few headlines where the FTC is stepping in, and that doesn't really seem to be accurate, or that it's a break from tradition. That's just not accurate. As I also said, and reading the FTC's website, that's just how they handle these things usually. So what could happen? The FTC and DOJ have outlined that they're going to be a lot more aggressive on deals like this. And they could, based on what Hoeg said, they could, first of all, tie it up in the courts a lot longer. So it could take longer for the deal to finally go through. That's why like it takes a whole year for anything like this to go through. And that's likely without any snags or issues. It's 3 in the morning. I'm sorry. Ugh. They could file a complaint about the merger, which would again be taken to the courts, and they could make it where Microsoft would need to get prior approval for future mergers. He did talk about how the FTC might have more experience in this, and that's why they're taking over, talking about the NVIDIA stuff, and that seems like not that weird either. And he always actually thought the FTC was going to sort of take over. And what was really interesting, he said that this might likely be a problem in the EU more than the US, because one thing I have to imagine is that Microsoft, like, they're not just going to try and buy this if they know it's a non-starter. They likely feel quite confident that this is going to go through, but there are still a few areas where there could be some snags. So their job is to guess what will happen long term. So is this deal going to have a negative effect long term on the video game industry? That's the question that they're going to be looking at, right? What do they think? And this isn't like Twitter. This isn't whatever. This is the FTC. So they're going to be looking at everything, basically, including emails. Like one of the examples given. Well, let me give you some context first. I'm sorry, I'm a little all over the place on this one. So one of the things that they said over on this justice.gov website was where they're I'm so bad at legal stuff. Like I said, I wanted to talk about it, but I need more time to really dive into it. So we're just having a conversation today, really. A merger enhances market power if it is likely to encourage one or more firms to raise price, reduce output, diminish innovation, or otherwise harm customers as a result of diminish competitive constraints or incentives. I didn't highlight this, but in evaluating how a merger will likely change a firm's behavior, the agencies focus primarily on how the mergers affect conduct that would be most profitable for the firm. They also talk about enhancement of market power by sellers often elevates the prices charged to customers. Enhanced market power can also be manifested in non-price terms and conditions that adversely affect customers, including reduced product quality, reduced product variety, reduced service, or diminished innovation. Such non-price effects may coexist with price effects or can arise in their absence. When the agencies investigate whether a merger may lead to a substantial lessening of non-price competition, they employ an approach analogous. Oh my goodness, I can't say the word. Analogous, to that used to evaluate price competition. I don't know why I can't say that word today. Analogous. It just doesn't sound right. I think it's too early in the morning. So one of the things that was really interesting is that if you look at this from a market perspective, Hoeg thinks that that's not going to happen, because if you look at the gaming market, and I'm going to show you an image, but I want you to take it with a grain of salt. It's been going around a lot on Twitter lately, etc. And I'm going to show it to you, but I don't think you should be taking this with a ton of like, it's not a concrete good example. The reason I'm showing it is because it does show that there is a lot of other companies here, but there's stuff like Nintendo's not even on here, for example, right? Ubisoft, there's a bunch of Ubisoft logos, et cetera, et cetera. But that said, if the FTC looks at the market and the other companies available, they will likely see something similar to this. However, there are other perspectives that the FTC look at, like consumer reaction to the deal. And as we know, this has been quite contentious between everybody, basically. Some people think it's going to be a monopoly. Other people, like the person who made this image, clearly think that it will not be. And if you look at this image, some of the things that are a little weird about, like Embracer Group has a lot of titles under their name, but Embracer Group is like in 5th place. Sony, who's in, are they in first? They're in 2nd place, has a fairly small piece of the pie. Tencent is in first place. Their piece of the pie is really small. But if you look at Ubisoft, who I don't even know where they stand. So it's like, I think they're just showing that there are still going to be a lot of other options. I think that was the person's goal. And he also even says in the fine print on the bottom, he's kind of messing around. So I'm showing it more to show, like, if Xbox and the deal and Activision manages to go through, the DOJ is probably going to look at the competition on the market. If you look at the competition on the market, there's a lot of other options out there in terms of who's making games, who's publishing games, and who has an investment. So likely it will go through. But if they also look at how consumers are reacting to it, they could stop in their tracks and dive in a little bit deeper. And here's the thing that I don't think many people have brought up. The real question is going to be, has Microsoft sent any internal emails about the Activision Blizzard deal, or just emails in general, with Xbox being a reason that they could suddenly jack up the price of Xbox Game Pass? And that's sort of what Hoeg Law alluded to. And if there is any proof of that, which I have to imagine that the FTC and DOJ will not find that, but I don't know, like, if there are internal emails about something like that being the goal of the acquisition, then the deal potentially could not go through. And more realistically, if the DOJ and FTC start looking at the thing, see, people always talk about things that they're important, but they don't talk about the most important things. For example, like King Mobile. Now, if they start looking at King Mobile, if they start looking at what Xbox is going to be able to do with the cloud, which everybody laughs about, or what they're able to do just in those few markets, then there is a potential that this deal does not go through. King Mobile makes so much money, and that's actually an area where they could run into some hot water. I have no idea what's going to happen here. I'm really, really curious to see how it all pans out, because at the end of the day, if they look at the plan here, like, they can look at it from two perspectives. They'll probably look at it from all of them. But at the end of the day, are they going to decide if this is antitrust, where basically nobody can compete with them? And if they just look at it based on like the type of perspective that person presented with all the other companies, they will not come to that conclusion. At least Hoeg feels that way. And I have to imagine, I feel that way also if they only look at that. But if they look at the larger picture, if they look at Game Pass, cloud, and mobile, then there is a chance that it could be problematic for Microsoft and Xbox. I don't know what's going to happen. It's really, really interesting. And I can't wait to see and read more about how this process unfolds. I'm probably going to dive more into this topic at a later date, but these are just like my first very early findings and thoughts about the topic. Let me read a few more of the bullet points. Hoeg says that if they look at the market, they'll see a healthy competition. Counter that they are starting a new market with Game Pass. Oh, yeah. So Hoeg pointed out that Game Pass is a new market that nobody else has really created or made as big. And if they look at Game Pass and they see, okay, Xbox has Game Pass now. If we allow this deal to go through, will anybody ever be able to compete with Game Pass? That's actually one area where the FTC could say that might be a problem, and maybe they don't let the deal go through or whatever. And I made the counterpoint to the Adam video the other day, but reading that, I'm like, I think that's the point he was trying to make, but I don't think he presented his arguments very well. However, that is one area where potentially the FTC could say, no, that's not going to go through. But sorry, I'm working through this like in real time. So PlayStation actually has their subscription service though, and Nintendo has somewhat of a service, or they're starting to get their feet wet. Google, who is shutting down Stadia or quietly trying to do it or whatever, just tried to do it and messed up. I don't know. That is one area where the FTC could stop the deal dead in its tracks. Time's going to tell on this one. It's definitely an interesting topic that we're probably going to be revisiting later on the channel. But yeah, that's all I have for you today. Well, let me look at my notes again. I don't think they're going to find evidence that they plan to reduce the quality of their product. I think that doesn't make any sense, right? Like the idea that if an Activision Blizzard goes through, that the plan is to make terrible Call of Duty games. Like I just, that one just doesn't even make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. Activision ended up in the place it was because partially the franchise was getting worse. Like the last Call of Duty, right? People didn't like it as much, so the quality was diminished of the product, which reduced their stock price, which compounded with all the other terrible things happening at Activision Blizzard, had them actually sell or at least try and sell to Microsoft. So the idea that Microsoft's going to buy them and be like, okay, let's make bad games. Like, I can't work through that logically. They will lose revenue on the deal. So yeah, I don't think they'll find evidence that there is a grand master plan to reduce quality of a product. If they look to see if Microsoft had ever communicated about jacking up prices, they're going to be looking at your reactions about the deal. And his final thoughts were, if they take a closer look at cloud gaming or Game Pass, it might actually end up with a lot more questions. So yeah, I don't know. Time's going to tell on this one. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. I think at the end of the day, I'm really, really interested to see how it pans out, but I have a feeling it's going to go through. Seeing all the other companies out there, I think it's going to go through fine. I'm going to be really, if they do dive into Game Pass, and like Game Pass, to us, it's a good deal. But that has been a question a lot of people have had lately. Like a lot of people feel like Game Pass is going to be the downfall of the entire video game industry. And I think that's hyperbolic, but at the same time, if enough people have that fear, maybe we should look into it a little bit closer and at least have a conversation about it, right? Anyway, those are my thoughts for today. I'm tired and I got to ship out a bunch of stuff tomorrow. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Let me know what you think. In the meantime, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell if you like my videos. I'm sorry, I'm very scattered today on this one. If you want to become a member, memberships are turned on. Thank you so much for all the members who've supported the channel. I still need to update the list. It's been a busy weekend. I will do it first thing in the morning. Click that join button if you want to become a member. I'm going to get out of here. Good night, everybody. Bye for now.